of practitioners. So, by the way, if anyone doesn't want to be recorded, just maybe sort of stay anonymous, switch your video off, and we won't be recording you. Otherwise, we'll assume it's okay. Just got to point out, Giles is one of our biggest recruitment sergeants at the moment. Every week I get this little LinkedIn saying, hey, go and talk to this guy, Gwyn. And every time I do, it normally ends up with someone thinking, wow, that's just the community I want to join. So much appreciation for that, Giles.
My pleasure, my pleasure.
Yeah, it's a learning space, really, we've created. ASP itself doesn't have any products or services. We just support our members, which all of us are members. So it's a sort of a community group. And we're just learning how to move from unsustainable to sustainable practice. So if anyone wants to join after this, feel free. You're getting a good flavour of the range of practitioners that we've got, from technical consultants to business consultants to coaches to artists to poets to painters to filmmakers to educators, complete range. And that's what's been really apparent in the last couple of weeks with our support of the Humber Eco Fest, with the diverse range of events we put on, something for everybody. We don't care about the size of meetings. Anything from 2 upwards is good. The fewer people that come, the more the people that come enjoy it. So size is no issue for us. So we've got about 7 or 8 people today, so nice group. So should be lots of time for chat. Julia and I will monitor the chat, but I think the first thing we'll do is hand over to Giles. He's got a lot to tell us about. And then we can have a Q&A after that. So over to you, Giles. Thank you very much.
Oh, thank you, Gwyn. And yeah, if we do get any latecomers, they'll just pick things up at whatever point we're at in the presentation. So yeah, without further ado, I will share my screen, and hopefully in one moment you should see the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, here we go. Okay, so Gwyn, Julia, can you see the PowerPoint?
Yep, looks good.
Okay, great stuff. Now, for reasons I won't waste too much time going into, I won't put it into presentation mode. I'll just work off this layout, if that's okay. I've just found through a few hard lessons of previous experience that it's better off doing it this way. So yeah, again, thank you for your time this lunchtime. Great to see you. My name is Giles Metcalf. I'm from Giles Metcalf Digital. One of the things I do as a sustainability practitioner is focus on website sustainability, the carbon footprint of your website. As you would expect, I am a member of the Association of Sustainability Practitioners, the ASP. I'm also Good Business Charter accredited, member of ORB, the Organisation for Responsible Businesses, who have very strong links to the ASP. So today, and a member of the FSB as well, and that's the Federation of Small Business, not the Russian Secret Services. Boo. Anyway, enough of that. So why you should care how green your website is. So if you own a website or are thinking of creating one, you should be mindful about its ecological and carbon footprint for reasons which will soon become apparent. Climate change is a serious threat. We all know that. If we don't want our world to become uninhabitable in a few years, we should all take action now, not next year or in 15 years' time or whatever. Why should you care how green your business is? Well, because doing right by planet Earth is the right thing to do. And again, I think we all know that. But there are some people who don't really care about eco issues and sustainability per se, but very definitely others do, and they will hold you and your business accountable. So consumers, citizens and activists have turned sustainability into what is now a mainstream concept. That wasn't always the case when I was growing up, Gwyn, and I know you know that that's the case as well. But yes, it's very different, definitely a mainstream concept now, and one that's able to ruin a company or organisation's reputation and indeed profits or operating activities if concerns about business ethics and behaviour aren't addressed. I think most of us will be familiar with net zero, but if you are, if you aren't UK based, then just bear with me for a moment. But if you are UK based, in June 2019, the UK government committed to reducing the UK's net greenhouse gas emissions by at least 100% by 2050 compared to 1990 levels. Now, this target is known as net zero, and milestones towards moving to a net zero emissions economy are now actually set down in UK law, although there is and was controversy around this. And unfortunately, we've seen the recent rowing back on the net zero goals by the current administration. Anyway, I won't say too much about that. Now, I had to change the tense of this slide from present tense to past tense as a result of the recent rowing back by Rishi et al. But anyway, the government's previous stance was that taking action on climate change would help businesses to grow, help them to seize new opportunities, create new jobs, encourage investment, and adapt against the challenges of a changing planet. So the benefits for businesses and organisations, the government also believed that by reducing emissions, businesses and organisations across the UK would be able to lower their running costs, saving money as a result, attract new customers and investors, maintain a competitive advantage both locally and globally, qualify for tax benefits and tax breaks, and indeed build a better, more sustainable supply chain. Now, this is quite a staggering figure, and it sort of blew my mind when I first came across it, but fully 99% or 99.9% of businesses in the UK are SMEs. Now, an SME is classed as a business with anywhere from one person as sole trader up to around 40 or 50 employees. But small and medium-sized enterprises, SMEs, account for fully 99.9% of the business population in the UK. So we, because I'm one myself, all have a vital role to play. So yeah, even the smallest businesses and organisations, sole traders such as myself, do produce carbon emissions. That's through premises, the vehicles that we use, supply chain, and indeed, yes, our websites. So every time your website is visited, carbon is generated. The average website produces 6.8 grams of CO2 per page view. And obviously, you know, that varies if your website's getting visited very rarely, once in a blue moon. But, you know, if it's getting visited hundreds or thousands of times a day, then that very much does start to add up. So a website with 10,000 page views per month would produce fully 816 kilograms of CO2 or equivalent emissions per year. And the more complex a website is, the more electricity it requires to load and the greater its climate impact. So if you scale that up across the whole internet, you've got a big problem. So yeah, your website has a carbon footprint. In the case of websites, the carbon footprint refers to the amount of carbon emissions equivalent produced during the website's operation. Now, these emissions come from the electricity used to power the servers, cooling systems, and other equipment required to keep the website up and running. Websites sit on servers, servers sit in data centers. Data centers consume a vast amount of power to keep them up and running and keep the servers cooled and operational. So, you know, we've seen the rise of data centers over the last 25 years or so. And it's now said that data centers are as polluting as the world's airline industry. But I also do have to say, for the sake of balance, that they are at the forefront of new initiatives in sustainable energy. So they are helping to drive the tech forward, which then trickles down to the rest of us. But it's expected that data centers will consume about 20% of the entire world's electricity in 2025. We're at the tail end now of 2023, so not far away from 2024. So in only a couple of years' time, it will be fully 1/5 of the world's entire electricity going towards powering data centers. And that may well increase with AI, but I'm going to come on to that in a minute. So a while back, there was a really good BBC Panorama programme on data centres, and that programme reported that Ireland, the Republic of Ireland, is becoming a hub for data centres, and that fully 25%, so 1/4 of all the electricity generated in Ireland, will go to powering them by 2025. So yeah, if you do have access to iPlayer, you'll be able to find that that Panorama program, Is the Cloud Damaging the Planet? So yeah, the carbon footprint of AI, I briefly mentioned AI a moment or two ago. So as big data, machine learning and AI continue to gain prominence in IT and other areas of our lives, experts are raising concerns about the environmental costs of computation, primarily data and AI's carbon footprint and greenhouse gas emissions. The data sets used to train AI are increasingly large and take an enormous amount of energy to run. The MIT Massachusetts Institute of Technology review reported that training just one AI model can emit more than 626, so I think that should be 1,000 pounds of carbon dioxide equivalent. Not quite sure what that is in kilograms, but it's a hell of a lot, which is nearly 5 times the lifetime emissions of an average American's car. So yeah, that's absolutely staggering. But going back to your website, moving away from AI, have you considered what it takes for a simple website visit? So there's a power required on the end user's device, whether that's their phone or their tablet, laptop, desktop PC, whatever. The communication networks used to deliver the website over the down the wire, as it were. The data centers where a website is hosted, and the storage of the data on a server. You know, again, I talked briefly about data centers. So the resources needed to accomplish a simple website visit quickly start to add up. And in essence, the more complicated a website is, the more bloated it is, the more emissions there are. But it doesn't have to be this way. As we all face climate change, you know, self-evident, we can take a small step that makes a big impact, and that is creating a low carbon website. So yeah, you can't ignore your website. If you want to take action to improve the sustainability and your eco credentials at your business or organization, you can't ignore your website. Luckily, there are some simple steps you can take to make your website leaner, cleaner, and indeed greener. And I don't just mean, you know, sticking a green color scheme on your website in this case. So reducing the carbon emissions associated with a website boils down to minimizing the amount of electricity used to load, send and view a web page, and ensuring that that resulting electricity required to do so is from clean, renewable energy resources. So you can make your website leaner, cleaner and greener by reducing bloat, i.e., putting your website on a diet, low code and low image, low video usage, making it quick and easy for people to find the information they're actually looking for without them having to go through many pages of the website, which unnecessarily wastes energy. It used to be a case that owners of websites, web developers, wanted to keep people on the website for as long as possible. These days, the opposite is true. It's actually far better to deliver people straight to the information that they want. And then, once they've got that information, if they go away again, then that's absolutely fine. And yes, using green hosting. So again, making sure that the server and data center that your website resides on, the company that you use to provide your hosting, does use green hosting and renewable energy. Now, this isn't an advert for me and my business, but I do offer a website sustainability audit. So a guided session with me helps you to understand, measure, and indeed reduce your website's carbon footprint. You'll see how it rates against others, find out how quickly or otherwise it loads. Get your website's overall carbon footprint, be able to run a full audit on your entire site and discover areas for improvement. So if that's of interest, please do get in touch with me after the event. So there are additional benefits to auditing your website, understanding, measuring and reducing its carbon footprint. The great thing about going through the auditing process and making your website more carbon friendly is it does bring additional benefits. It makes the website cheaper to run, improves load times and performance, reduces bounce rates, i.e. People getting fed up of waiting for your website to load and going elsewhere. It provides a better content experience and UX for those users, especially if you put accessibility measures in place. And it also improves your SEO and search engine ranking. SEO is search engine optimization, and search engine ranking, or SERPs. So Google favors leaner, cleaner and greener websites and boosts you up the search results as a result. So yeah, again, on the subject of additional benefits, with the steps you take to reduce your website's carbon footprint, you'll notice that you might well save money, for example, by reducing your website's animations or videos and compressing your images. That creates a lighter website, a less bloated one, as I say, put it on a diet, and it ultimately means less data storage, therefore a reduction in your data hosting costs. So moving away from websites for a short while, this presentation is primarily about your website, but also about emails and social media as well, both your usage as an individual and as a business or an organization. So yeah, we've seen that simply having a website, but each email has a carbon cost as well. Most of us receive hundreds of them every day. I've just cleared out my junk mail folder, and I'd taken my eye off the ball for a couple of days, and I had fully 150 junk mails in my junk mail folder just in 2 or 3 days since I last emptied it out. We send a lot as well. According to Statistica, more than 306 billion emails were sent in 2021, and that is expected to top 376 billion in 2025. So again, in a couple of years' time. And whilst each one may seem fairly innocuous, the collective impact of billions of emails does very much soon start to add up. But just how significant is the impact of all those emails? Very much a moot point. And how do they stack up? Well, different types of email stack up as follows. At the low end, you've got your spam emails that have been picked up by spam filters and never even make it into your inbox. That's around half of all the emails that are ever sent. Although, you know, the ones that do get picked up and go into your junk folder, you do still need to empty those out. At the other end, you've got your mass mail outs, your email newsletters, etc., that take a long time to write, but only ever get read by a few people. And there's some statistics here for you in terms of emissions, CO2e, carbon dioxide equivalent. So a spam email that's picked up by the filters within your particular email application, that has emissions equivalent of 0.03 grams. A short email sent and indeed received and read on a phone is 0.2 grams. Short email sent and received on a laptop, 0.3 grams. And then a long email, such as an email newsletter or a lengthy email that takes 10 minutes to write and around 3 minutes to read, and indeed is sent and received on a laptop, that's fully 17 grams. And then an email blast, a mass mail out that takes 10 minutes to write and maybe sent to 100 people, of whom one reads it and the other 99 merely glance at it for 3 seconds to decide that they should ignore it. That's a whopping 26 grams. So Mike Berners-Lee reckons that the range of carbon equivalent emissions per email, he puts it at between 0.03 grams and 26 grams, as we've just seen. Berners-Lee estimates that globally emails could account for as much as 150 million tons of CO2e, and that was in 2019, or about 0.3% of the world's entire carbon footprint. Obviously, those figures are now a few years out of date, so will have massively increased, I'm sure. But, you know, again, for the sake of balance, just how bad are emails anyway? Well, Mike Berners-Lee's estimates are based on around half of all emails being sent being spam, and the remainder being reasonably useful messages that took the sender 3 minutes to write and the reader about 1 minute to read. So on that basis, and you know, you've got to put some criteria in place to measure all this, average email usage is equivalent to driving a small petrol car for around 128 miles. So, you know, that's a fairly medium to long journey, but I'm sure one that each of us makes and takes at least a few times a year. So again, back to Mike Berners-Lee. So in the grand scheme of things, the impact of email is not really the biggest carbon problem that humanity faces, but however, it is an easy one to tackle and something that is well within all our powers to do something about. Again, Berners-Lee acknowledges that thinking about email is a good way into conversations about the benefits of cutting every kind of junk out of our lives. And that's something I'll come on to in a bit, in a while, in terms of our social media usage. So yeah, more on that later. So what can I do? What can you do? There are a number of things that you can do to not only keep email volumes to a minimum and you know, avoid email overload, but they're also beneficial to tackle the stress and anxiety that comes from that email overload. So, for instance, you can only subscribe to the news services that you actually want. It's very quick and easy to sign up for something, you know, make a snap decision and sign up for it, and then kind of 6 months later, 12 months later, you've got loads of unread emails, and then, you know, you're wondering why you bothered signing up for it in the first place. So you can then unsubscribe from mailing lists that are no longer relevant to you. You know, that's assuming that your email address hasn't been scraped and you've been added to stuff that you didn't want to be added to, and indeed you can unsubscribe from it. Ensure that your own mailing lists, the ones that you use to send information out, are up to date. Write concisely and keep messages as brief as possible. And in some cases, you know, if an email needs to be long, drawn out, and quite onerous to write and indeed read, you know, you might actually be better having a Zoom meeting or a telephone conversation with the recipient of that email, and only message those who need the information. Don't simply copy people in to cover your own back, or indeed any other parts of your anatomy. So yeah, we can all practice good email hygiene by deleting old messages from our inbox and sent emails, regularly empty our deleted and junk folders. You know, it doesn't have to be once a day, but if you can do it once a week or at least once a month, then, you know, that's something. And yeah, try and keep on top of your inbox, junk, sent and deleted folders. If you can filter out your emails into ones that you need to read and indeed action immediately, and then other ones which are less urgent, you know, may well find that it makes managing your inbox easier. And these are simple and easy tactics that we can all do, and they're good for you and your well-being, as well as being good for the planet too. So digital sobriety. Digital sobriety is a concept originally developed by a French think tank called the Shift Project. And it promotes using the internet and technology in a more mindful and responsible way, as opposed to cutting it out entirely. So no one expects you to, you know, go and live off grid somewhere and, you know, never look at your phone or laptop ever again. You know, it's not an all or nothing approach. You don't have to go completely cold turkey, but you know, if you use it in a more mindful way and exercise digital sobriety, then that could be a good way forward. So again, you know, total digital abstinence and going off grid probably isn't an option for you, as much as perhaps we might like it to be. So digital sobriety is a more feasible option for you and your business or your organization. And one area where you can exercise digital sobriety without totally giving up digital activity is with social media. Forgive me, I'm just going to take a slurp of my coffee. Just sorry, bear with me one moment. Lubricate the vocal cords a little bit. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, as you would probably expect, social media also has a carbon footprint. The carbon footprint of social media varies significantly depending on the type of content, the technology, the platform used, and the efforts that the platform has made to reduce its own footprint. So it may be slightly counterintuitive, but given that video and images generally have a higher carbon footprint, though according to analysis by Green Spectre, video streaming service YouTube does in fact bag the prize for the lowest impact. I mean, as I say, this may be counterintuitive, but YouTube, which is owned by Google, and Google have taken steps to be carbon neutral and minimize the carbon footprint. And as a result, yeah, YouTube does indeed have the lowest carbon footprint of any of the mainstream social media channels. And we'll see how they stack up in due course. So spending a minute on YouTube generates emissions of 0.46 grams of CO2e, so just under half a gram. But that is per minute. Every time you go on YouTube, just be mindful and aware of how long you do actually spend on there. And at the other end of the scale is TikTok, with a footprint per minute, which is almost 5 times that size. So that's getting up for 2.5 grams of CO2e per minute. So yeah, believe it or not, on average, we all spend 145 minutes a day on social media, around 2 hours, 25 minutes, 2.5 hours. And again, taking an average emission equivalent of 1.15 grams CO2e per minute. Again, Green Spectre calculates that an individual's use of social media generates 60 kilograms of CO2e per year. And that's the same amount of CO2e generated by driving the 535 kilometre distance between London and Edinburgh in a small car. Again, for those of you familiar with the geography of the UK, but as you can see here, that's a fair distance by the graphic here with the map on it. Again, many of us travel that sort of distance in just a few days. If you have to commute to and from work every day, for instance, or you travel around a lot in the course of your day-to-day lives. So again, in the grand scheme of things, cutting back on how much we use LinkedIn, Facebook, or Twitter, X, whatever it's called this week, isn't going to make the biggest difference at the individual level in terms of your carbon footprint. And also, I do want you to be aware that whilst we all do have a role to play, I don't believe in putting the onus on individuals. There are plenty bigger institutions who need to do their bit and play their roles as well. But, let's take it as read that for this presentation, I'm talking about us as individuals and as business owners or members of organizations, associations, whatever. So the carbon cost of social media, I would argue, is just another reason to be mindful of our social media use, as well as our individual well-being. So one thing we can do is to stop doom scrolling by turning off our news and social media notifications and limiting our exposure to social media and our social media scroll time. That's going to be good for our well-being. Be mindful of our social media habits. Again, delete any accounts that we aren't using, either because we don't enjoy being on those platforms or we've got moral or ethical objections to them. I deleted my Twitter account and my Facebook account, both personally and professionally. Hey, yay me. But yeah, I took that decision to do so. So yeah, we can break free of social media platforms that we aren't actually enjoying being on, or ones that bring value. I'm not going to talk about trolling or anything like that, but I'm sure we all know what I'm talking about here. So the negative aspects of our heavy social media use and usage are well documented. whether that's a psychological impact of seeing others' carefully curated lives, or constantly being exposed to bad or fake news and toxic viewpoints, opinions, or, excuse me, yes, indeed, trolling. So again, you know, from a business and organizational point of view, yeah, it may well be a fact of life that you still need to use social media to get your messaging out there. But if you do want to get to grips with your social media carbon footprint, then the comparison website Compare the Market has turned the Green Spectre data into a handy carbon calculator, and there's a link for that there. But again, you know, you can see the 3 social media sites, platforms with the biggest carbon footprint are TikTok, Reddit, and Pinterest, with 2.63, 2.48, and 1.3 grams of CO2e per minute for each and every minute of usage. So again, you know, I did say, how do the various platforms stack up? And again, you know, this is the data courtesy of Green Spectre. So yeah, here's how the various social media platforms score for grams of CO2e per minute. So again, the lowest is YouTube, as we've seen. And then we've got Twitch, which I've personally never used. Twitter / X, LinkedIn, which, you know, I am fairly active on, I have to admit. Facebook, which I'm not, because again, you know, I deleted my account. So I'm just giving myself a virtual pat on the back, which you can't see, but anyway. Snapchat, yeah, I've never used Snapchat. I'm a bit old for that kind of thing. Instagram, yeah, I am active on Instagram, although less so than I was. I actually took the decision to delete fully 6,000 posts and images off Instagram and limit the amount of time that I'm active on there. Pinterest, Reddit, and TikTok, as we've seen, which are the 3 worst offenders. And yeah, I'm not really active on any of those either, but just bear that in mind for those of you that do use those platforms. So there are other practical steps we can all take right now. I can't see because I'm sharing my screen and looking at the PowerPoint presentation, but I'm assuming that you've all turned your cameras off because, you know, you're watching the presentation and not talking. But if you turn your camera off when you aren't talking during a Zoom meeting or a webinar, if you're on Teams, Meet, or whatever, it reduces the impact and carbon footprint of that meeting by fully 96%. So if you're doing a lot of online meetings, you know, again, it all does start to add up. So you're really not being rude, ignorant, or indeed shifty by turning your camera off when you're not speaking, as long as you don't need to have it on for accreditation reasons, or, you know, if there's a deaf or hard of hearing person on the call who maybe needs to lip read. But, you know, you're just trying to save the carbon emissions. So I try and tell people with every online meeting that I do the reasons for me doing this. And as soon as I mention it, it is very heartening to see people start to turn their cameras off as a result. So we've talked about your carbon footprint. Are you aware that there is now such a thing as the concept of your climate shadow? So to truly evaluate your impact on the environment, you have to go way beyond just simply putting, you know, the various waste streams into your recycling bins and, you know, looking at who your energy provider is, and even who you bank with and who your pension is, vitally important though those things are, it does have to be said. But introducing the concept of the climate shadow, which is something that was discussed by and posited by Emma Petit from MIC. So, as Emma's article states, almost 20 years ago, there was a fiendishly clever campaign from by BP, and begrudgingly, respect that because it was fiendishly clever. But obviously, I'm not bigging up BP in any way. But they introduced the concept of the carbon footprint, which is a now ubiquitous tool that's supposed to help us calculate how much we are personally contributing to the climate change. But carbon footprint is a sham, because BP unveiled its carbon footprint calculator in 2004. So we, us can assess the impact of our normal daily life, how our going to work, buying food, and gas, indeed, traveling. Sorry, just bear with me one moment. There's a knock on the door. Babe, thank you. Yeah. Traveling is largely responsible for heating the globe. And again, this squarely puts the responsibility with us as individuals, and takes the spotlight, the glare, away from BP themselves. So BP co-opted the concept of the carbon footprint and tied it to small feel-good activities, such as shortening your showers, or the amount of time you spend in the bath, or indeed hanging your clothes out to dry instead of tumble drying them. So they crucially shifted the narrative away from corporate accountability to personal responsibility, and therefore making us feel bad about ourselves in the process. So as it says here, by promoting the carbon footprint as the single most important thing for concerned citizens to focus on, the fossil fuel industry, ensured that we wouldn't put our energy towards what truly matters, which is what Emma would argue is collective action and activism. And I'm sure Gwyn, Julia, the rest of us ASP members on here would wholeheartedly agree with that. So to know the true extent of your impact, Emma Petit urges you to look beyond your carbon footprint and instead look behind you at your carbon shadow. And that concludes my my presentation. So thank you for your time and attention today. And if you still want to reduce your carbon footprint, given what I've just said about your carbon shadow, then that's great. I'm here for you. Let's work together. It'd be great to hear from you, and let's all work together to reduce carbon emissions one website at a time. Thank you very much. So I'll stop sharing my screen at this point, and we've now got a bit of time for further discussion and some Q&A.
Thanks very much, Giles. That was excellent. And I like the way you didn't just focus on a small issue, but you expanded it to the context within which we work. I'd just like to add a couple of comments. We had our website audited a couple of years ago, and all those benefits that you say suddenly appeared. I think the most important one was the fact that becoming more conscious of the fact that it was a generator of carbon. We changed this page size, we reduced the number of images, and in fact made it much easier for people to access the data with much fewer page clicks. So it improved the user experience, I think, dramatically, as well as all the other benefits. So it was a real win-win situation. And we've just, as a result of another talk this week, we've just reduced all our email traffic as well. So I fully underline all the points you made there. That's excellent. So people can feel free to switch on your videos now if you want to engage in the chat. And if you want to raise a hand, or Julia, you want to say something?
Yeah, I was just going to ask, because I was curious about, because we were talking about emails, and I'm very conscious that, like Gwyn was saying, especially with Helmut EcoFest, there's been so many emails going back and forth, but we've been trying to, do Zoom calls and stuff as soon as possible, as much as possible. So I'm just curious, I don't know if you have not necessarily any numbers and figures, but I was kind of curious, like, if, for example, you were saying you could save the time of multiple emails by doing a Zoom call, how much kind of emissions do you reckon, like say a 10-minute Zoom call compared to like a couple of emails back and forth would make? What would the difference be there if you were trying to sort something out with someone, for example?
Yeah, I mean, there are figures, that I will endeavour to find on that and share with you. But what we have to be mindful of is the carbon footprint, the impact of a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting, Google Meet, whatever, is still much less than, physically getting in our car and driving to meet up in a central location. But in terms of the impact of the individual platforms and individual meetings, it depends, whether you've got your camera turned on so that the video is being sent over the networking infrastructure. If it was just audio, then again, it's fully 96% less of the impact. But then, if it was audio only, you might as well just have a phone call at the end of the day. But the platforms, some of them you can change the screen resolution. Teams, for instance, I'm pretty sure you can do that on Meet as well. So I think Meet and Teams do have slightly better per minute carbon ratings than Zoom, but it just depends on what you use the most of. And there's not an awful lot in it, to be honest. It's like the difference is fairly minimal. It's not like there's one which is terrible and one that is way better than the others.
Nice.
Paul, you've got a question?
Yeah, thanks, Gwyn, and thanks, Giles. Great presentation as always.
Thank you, Paul.
It's a kind of a follow-on question from Julia's, really, actually, because I was thinking about more and more these days the use of instant messaging platforms like WhatsApp and Teams and this kind of thing, rather than email. I know in my personal kind of business dealings, I'm a member more and more of groups, mostly networking, where instead of loads of emails going out, it's all done on WhatsApp these days. Is there a kind of a significant difference if you were advising a company? Would you be saying, for internal communications, look to instant messaging rather than email for the kind of the day-to-day, what you'd normally have walked over to someone's desk to have a chat about? Would you now be doing it?
Yeah, that's the best case scenario. I mean, although it has to be said, as somebody who did used to work in large open plan offices, the last thing I needed was people coming and door stepping me or desk stepping me, as it became known. I like to see things on email down in black and white and be able to action them, at a time that suits me. But yes, that would be the best scenario, actually walking to speak to somebody, whether that's within your office or a face-to-face meeting in a coffee shop in town or whatever. But I understand that that's not always possible. But you just need to be mindful of, do I need to send that message out? Do I need to send that email out? Is there a better way of doing it? Would it be better to have a phone call rather than having an online meeting? Am I doing it for to make life easier for myself rather than considering what the carbon footprint is? But I'm not here to wag the finger or say that you must be doing this or you shouldn't be doing that. It is tempered by real world understanding and practical application, whereby there are going to be times when we do need to send that email, or we do need to send that WhatsApp message, or have that send that group message out on Slack or whatever.
Good stuff. Thank you. Just from the website perspective as well, I'm just wondering, playing devil's advocate, how much pushback have you had talking to customers when they say, no, I need my website to be as flashy as possible. It needs the bells and whistles, it needs the videos, it needs the high res images, because, I'm selling a product or service that people need to see, in ultra high def kind of thing. Is there a kind of a good approach for those kind of people who maybe need to still be taken on the journey that you're talking about?
Yeah, I hear you, and yes, I have very much had that. One of my clients is exactly, said to me exactly what you've just said, and I mean, their carbon footprint is around the 6 gram mark, so it is pretty much bang on average. So I mean, it's not great by any means, but it's not terrible either. All you can do is just try and encourage people to do the right thing. Again, I'm not here to climb up on my soapbox and wag the finger at people. And if you were sort of expecting a walkthrough of how exactly you can make your website cleaner, greener, and leaner, then I'm sorry to disappoint, because that wasn't ever going to be the case today. I'm just looking at Monica's comments in the chat, so we've lost Monica as a result. But the whole purpose of today, and indeed like the discussions that I have with people, is just to raise awareness and try and get them to think about it. And it's up to people what they do or what they don't do. All you can do is try and raise awareness and advise people, and try and encourage them, help them to do the right thing. But I do fully take your point, and yes, I do get pushback. But there's pushback and there's pushback. There's people that get it, but say, as much as we would like to do something about it, we can't really, because our hands are tied, or we've signed up with a particular web developer who, we've paid our money, and we've got the website that we've got as a result. Again, I get that, but then there are people who are outright climate change deniers, or won't do anything about it until it starts to affect the bottom line of their business. I did speak to one guy recently who was saying, well, why should I bother? What's in it for me? And it's like, well, however much you try and explain, or however long, you try and however long you take to try and convince people to do the right thing, there will be some people out there who just aren't open to hearing the message.
Yeah, I fully agree with that, Giles. It's a question, if people don't want to do it, they'll find lots of good reasons for saying no. But if they want to do it, and it was interesting, Paul, because the first response when I looked at our website was, yeah, but I need all those videos and images. Then I thought, really, do I? But it was only because I wanted to, and I was working with people that were encouraging me to, go beyond that first reaction. But I think trying to convince people to do the right thing is almost a fool's errand at sometimes, isn't it, Giles? It's more important, I think, to find out who wants to do it and help those people, because you don't have many hours in the day, and if you can help people who want to do it, you have far bigger impact than waste your own energy and frustration in arguing with people who haven't got a clue and don't want to.
Yeah, pick your battles. Pick your battles is what I would say. I do come across those sort of people, but yes, whilst I'll be polite and courteous to them and hear them out, I try not to waste my precious personal resources and time and energy on trying to convince people who are outright deniers or flat earthers.
I thought the benefits that you put up for, you know, going leaner and greener were actually commercially quite interesting. You know, if I was running a website, I'd say they are good things to have happen to my website. You know, if it runs faster, if people can, you know, get to the information quicker, and Google ranks it better, and you know, why wouldn't I do that? Why wouldn't I make it leaner?
Yeah, absolutely. Why not? You know, there's people that you can appeal to their better nature from, you know, reducing carbon emissions and you know, helping to do their bit for the good of the planet and the good of people as well. And then, you know, as I say, I mean, the 3 Ps: people, planet, profit. People and planet before profit. But yes, there has to be the profit element. And I get, you know, that people do want to hear the business case for doing things, you know, depending on how hard-nosed or otherwise they are. But, you know, if it's doing the right thing anyway and saving you money or getting more business or getting more inquiries to your organization, then why wouldn't you do it? Why wouldn't you do it, as you quite rightly say?
Yeah, and that begs the other question of, is, you know, if you're sending emails out to encourage people to take more climate action, then arguably that every bit of carbon those emails cost is well invested. Whereas if you're actually just encouraging people to buy the next widget that's going to break in the next 6 months, then none of it's of any value anyway. So it's a question of
I think we had
in the first place.
Yeah, we had a similar conversation in an ASP session where we're talking about scope 3 and scope 4 emissions, because in my day job, as well as being a sustainability practitioner, I'm a freelance digital marketer, and there's albeit an ethical one. Sorry, notification for my next meeting. I do beg your pardon. But yeah, you know, I could spend my time working with businesses that you know, are ethical and are concerned with sustainability matters. Or, I mean, I wouldn't do this because it doesn't align with my own morals and ethics. Or, you know, I could try and convince people to buy the latest Range Rover or gas guzzling SUV. So, you know, we all have roles to play in that respect. But it's very nuanced. You know, does Greta Thunberg, or, I mean, I know Greta doesn't fly, but does somebody who flies around the world promoting the cause of carbon reduction and getting that message out to, you know, hundreds, thousands of people or whatever, you know, should they be told not to do that and not to fly? Whereas the person who's just sat in their bedroom on their computer but does do digital marketing for fossil fuel companies, or, you know, selling gas guzzling SUVs, who's in the right in that respect and who's in the wrong? You know, I would say that spreading awareness of carbon reduction, given the carbon